Hey, everything I put in my body has nutrients. We talked about how important it is to understand what are those nutrients that you put in your body. Did you know that on the back of almost every food sold in the United States has a nutrient label? We talked yesterday about what are all those different nutrients, carbohydrates and proteins and all those things. This is a way that you can know exactly what's going into your body. Let's see if we can't figure out how to read this thing. Understanding food labels is really important when figuring out what you're putting in your body. I keep this next to my desk at work so that I always remember to watch the food labels and figure out what those foods are that are most healthy for me. Let's take a look at a sample of a food label and see if we can't figure out what are the things that we're actually putting into our body and what's important when we look at these food labels. Here's a sample label for macaroni and cheese. We're going to go through this label and see if we can't figure out what are the important things to pay attention to when we're reading a label. We're going to start here with the serving size. In this container of macaroni and cheese, the serving size is 1 cup. But there are 2 cups in the container, meaning that if you were to eat this entire container of macaroni and cheese, you actually need to double all of the numbers that we have here. Sometimes manufacturers kind of trick you by making food seem healthier by putting a really small serving size. Most people don't eat 4 chips or 1 cookie when you're eating cookies. So you have to be very careful in looking at the serving size and how many servings are in the container. The next thing you want to check is the number of calories. Calorie is a measurement of the amount of energy that the food actually gives you. The technical scientific definition of a calorie is the amount of heat needed to raise 1 kilogram of water 1 degree Celsius. It's an amount of energy. This actually has to do with weight loss. Your body burns calories, it burns energy as you move around and your heart beats and your lungs move back and forth. Your body moves and burns these calories. If you take in more calories than you burn off, your body needs to store that extra energy, and it typically stores it as fat. So we want to pay close attention to the amount of calories that are in everything that we eat. The third thing we want to look at is this idea of fat, cholesterol, and sodium. These are things that we probably want to limit. You need to pay attention to how much fat you have in your day. We've talked a lot about solid fats versus liquid fats and which ones of those are the most important. There's also some loopholes that manufacturers have. If you have less than 1/2 gram of trans fat, they actually don't have to list it on their label. So you want to pay close attention to knowing that there are some things that are out there that might not actually be on the label. The next thing you want to look at is this idea, maybe look at these carbohydrates. These are things that you might want to limit in terms of carbohydrates and sugars. We've talked about having added sugars in foods. We want to probably maximize the idea of dietary fiber and the protein. So we want to be sure that we get enough fiber, we're sure that we get enough protein, and sure that we get enough of those extra nutrients like vitamin A and vitamin C and calcium. These are things that your body needs. On the right-hand side, you're going to see that in pink, it has percentages. Those are percentages of how much you're going to need in a day if you have what's called a 2,000 calorie diet. A normal adult probably works on a 2,000 calorie diet. A larger adult might have more like 2,200, and a smaller adult may have something like 1,800 or 1,600. For kids, you're going to want to work with a much smaller number of calories per day. So these numbers are actually a little bit off. But for a regular adult, based on a 2,000 calorie diet, those are the percentages that you need. So in this sample label, you would see that by eating 1 cup of macaroni and cheese, not the entire container, 1 cup, you would get 18% of the fat that you would need for that day. That's 15% of your saturated fat. If you were to eat both cups, you would have 36%, over 1/3 of the fat from just eating that macaroni and cheese. You can see that macaroni and cheese is actually a pretty good source of calcium, looking down at the nutrients. This gives you 20% of the calcium that you're going to need for the day. But it also has a lot of sodium in it. We can see that there's 20% of the amount of sodium that you would need as a daily value for a 2,000 calorie diet. The last thing at the bottom is just a footnote, and this is where manufacturers put extra things that they think that you should know about if you have a 2,000 calorie diet versus a 2,500 calorie diet. So reading a label is very important. You want to look out for things that are hydrogenated or partially hydrogenated oils. You want to look out for high fructose corn syrup. You want to look out for artificial ingredients like MSG, nitrates, and nitrites. These are different things that would be listed in maybe some of the other nutrients that are going into your body. You also want to look out for some of the allergens that might be labeled on this as well. Sometimes they have things like it contains peanuts, and there are several people that have an allergy to that, which can make this very dangerous, or maybe gluten and things like that. So reading a label will really tell you a lot about what's going into your body. So you can see that reading labels is really important when figuring out what's going into your body. It's not hard to do. Along with this video, there's a worksheet where you can practice reading some labels. Give that a try. See if you can't figure out what the difference is in apple slices versus yogurt, non-fat yogurt versus whole milk yogurt, and see if you can't make some good healthy choices by reading labels. Then, around your house, just be sure that you're taking a look at labels before you eat. We need to know what we're putting into our body so that we can make healthy choices. I'll see you again next time.